This video is brought to you by Squarespace, the best all-in-one platform for all of your website building needs. Hey guys, it's Celestia, and welcome back to another episode of Art Trope Top 10s, the series where I rant about the tropes I hate the most, ramble about my favorites, and poorly draw myself as all of them. So far, I've done the best and worst anime art tropes, Western animation art tropes, character design tropes, Mary Sue art tropes, and now hero and villain art tropes. And this week, it's time for one that'll hit a little closer to home for a lot of you, the top 10 worst artist tropes. Because God knows that if there's a dumb artist stereotype out there, and there are many, it's gonna be forced onto every artist character in media as if it's their entire personality, and I can't be the only one who's sick of seeing them. Not all of them are bad, I mean, obviously, since there's gonna be an episode for the top 10 best, too. But some of them are so bad that as an artist, they elicit such a deep, unique rage in me that I am so excited to finally get to rant about. Before I do though, because there is absolutely no way I'm stopping once I start, let me take a moment to thank the sponsor of today's video, Squarespace. I've been endorsing Squarespace with almost comedic passion and consistency for so long that this is the kind of response I get when I don't. And I get it. I too fear the absence of Squarespace in one of my videos. A Squarespace-less space. The alarm is warranted. Jokes aside though, I'm genuinely glad that they've become such a staple of the channel, because I sincerely believe that they're the best website building and hosting platform out there. Few things are more important for an artist than having a good portfolio to display their work on, which is why I'm always so happy to have an option like Squarespace to recommend, because they make building one so incredibly easy. I built both my previous and new and improved revamped portfolios there, and I was so impressed by the fact that I was able to create a cutesy, super branded one just as easily as I was able to create the cleaner, more professional version that I use now. But while the tools and templates they offer are absolutely perfect for portfolio building, they're so versatile that they're just as perfect for building anything else too. Any type of site you need, their massive library of templates will have exceptional options for. Even better, no matter what kind of site you build, it's just as easy to take it one step further and turn it into an online store, because they offer all of the tools you could possibly need to do so. The ability to manage payments and inventory, handle shipping and fulfillment, and even boost your SEO to help you get more eyes on your site and maximize the number of customers shopping there. It's perfect for selling merch and really any type of physical good, but it's just as easy to sell services too. Event management, editing, consultations, even art commissions. Their tools make selling anything easy, with a streamlined workflow, built-in appointment scheduling, email marketing tools, and so much more. And your customers have just as many options as you do too. They offer all of the most popular payment methods like Klarna, ACH Direct Debit, Apple Pay, Afterpay, and ClearPay, and even allow you the option to send individualized branded invoices to specific clients, so you can start accepting orders from around the world with just a few clicks. Whether you're an artist in need of a portfolio, an entrepreneur building an online store, a creator setting up an interactive blog, or a small business owner making a landing page, Squarespace is the place to do it. And you can find out yourself by going to squarespace.com to get your own free trial today. And once you've built the perfect site that you're ready to launch, you can get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain by going to squarespace.com/DuchessCelestia, linked in the description. Thank you so much to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video, and please go check them out. Now let's roast some artist tropes. These are never in any particular order, but I will say that I think number one might be one of the most rage-inducing ones on the list for me, while simultaneously somehow being the most utterly harmless one that doesn't warrant that rage in the slightest. The beret. The goddamn beret. Why? Why is this hat the universal symbol for being an artist? Why has every artist character in the history of artist characters had this one singular hat? Obviously that's an exaggeration, calm down, I know, I get it, but just, there are so many. And it's like the moment you take up art to any serious degree, you're legally banned from wearing any other form of headwear. You want to wear a helmet? Protect the most singularly important part of your body from harm? Too bad, you paint. It's a beret or nothing. Good luck with your broken brain. And don't get me wrong, I have nothing against the hat itself. I think it looks nice. I used to have one and I really liked it. And I got so many, haha, are you wearing that because you're an artist? Comments so relentlessly that my options were to stop wearing it or start attacking people. And I'm still not sure I made the right choice by getting rid of the hat. Obviously, I'm exaggerating that for the sake of comedy. I mean, I'm not actually gonna let an overdone joke make me stop wearing an item of clothing I like. And I really got rid of it because my cat stole it and slept on it so much that the fur was impossible to ever even begin to remove. But I didn't mourn the death of that beret, because at least I was finally free. There is nothing wrong with the beret-wearing artist trope, at least nothing wrong enough to justify how much I hate it, but it's just so overwhelmingly, inconceivably overdone that it might be the oldest, longest-running artist stereotype out there. And every time I see an artist character with one, I feel this deep, instinctive, lizard brain urge to just rip it off their heads and scream, "You're better than this!" Except Fiona Paulo. Fiona Paulo pulls it off. From now on, new rule. Fiona Paulo is the only artist with a beret pass. No one else. Find new artist hats. Okay, I googled ridiculous hats because I was gonna say, wearing any one of these would make it more obvious that you're an artist than a beret would, but instead I found these, and I take it back. We don't need to get rid of artist berets, we just need to replace them with these. This is the answer. Okay, wow, apparently I can talk about berets for a lot longer than I thought I could. I'm learning so much about myself. We just make a quick little phone note to give Celestia a pizza beret, and then we can move on. Alright. Number 2, the Manic Pixie Dream Girl artist. The edgy, offbeat, quirky, attractive in an unconventional way with tattoos and piercings, not like other girls' character, that's pursuing art because it's alternative and cool and not what society wants them to do. Have you ever heard the song Art Ho by Call Me Charisma? That's this character. I can't play it for you, but the lines, she's got a tattoo sleeve and smokes a bag of weed and her haircut is way fucking shorter than me, I think I fell in love with an art ho, should give you the gist of it. And okay, just for one quick second, can we talk about the line, haircut is shorter than me? I'm sure he meant shorter than his and he just needed it to rhyme, but like, yeah, dude, I should hope her haircut is shorter than you, unless maybe she's the girl from The Ring. How short are you? Anyway, sorry, tangent, back to the point. Think Lila from Dexter, whose whole personality is, I'm an edgy artist who just doesn't think like other people. Please listen to my quirky, enlightened perspectives on life that aren't limited by society's rules while I commit crimes in my art studio. But are they really crimes if I think that the redundant, over-moralized laws ruling us are stupid? I use the word cringe as sparingly as possible because cringe culture makes me want to rip my hair out and throw it at people. Although since I'm a Manic Pixie Dream Girl artist with a short haircut, I guess there wouldn't be much to throw. But this trope feels like it warrants an exception to that. It's cringe. At least to me. It's just so obvious that it may as well scream, hey, like this character, they're different. They make art to express how different they are. And it's just embarrassing. I'm all for artist characters that are different and alternative and expressive in ways that society views as odd or offbeat, because a lot of artists are like that. Art attracts outcasts, and as one, I think that's a great thing. But when you make being an edgy alternative art ho the character's entire personality, it almost does the opposite. Rather than making the character actually different, it makes them the same as every other artist stereotype that's different in exactly the same way. But who knows, maybe I'm just bitter that the number of checklist items of the trope that apply to me is high enough that I feel rightfully called out for being a stereotype myself. Short and or colored hair, bonus points for both, tattoo sleeve, piercings, a wardrobe made almost exclusively up of black clothes and band t-shirts. It's not looking good for me. But you know what? I don't smoke bags of weed, so I guess I'm free from my fate as a Call Me Charisma art ho. Thank God. The relief is truly overwhelming. Anyway, worst artist trope number 3 is one that really pisses me off, and that's mostly because people seem to think it actually exists in reality. The impossibly gifted artist who apparently came out of the womb holding a paintbrush in one hand and their first gallery show acceptance letter in the other to exhibit the first series of masterpieces that they created while still inside of their mother. I've talked about this before on the channel, but I don't believe in the word talented. I believe we are born with a certain number of innate strengths that leave us predisposed to being good at specific things, to a degree, but I don't believe those innate strengths are necessary to be good at those things, nor do I believe they play a particularly massive role in whether or not you are. I think you can learn to be good at art whether you're born with any predispositions towards the skills required for it or not, and being born with them won't make you magically good at art on its own if you don't also work at it. The fact that so many people already praise artists in real life for being so talented because they could never do something like that already pisses me off, because actually they could if they worked as hard at it as we do, and it's incredibly reductive of the hard work that we have put into our craft to suggest that it was just easy and effortless for us because we were born that way. So for that to be perpetuated further in media by the millions of gifted artist characters who actually don't have to work for it at all and really are just born putting Da Vinci to shame? No, absolutely not. You can take those dumb gifted artist stereotype characters and shove them right back up the particular orifice that your head was obviously in when you decided to make them. Okay, that one got me way too heated. Sorry, I struck my own nerve. I'm so talented. Anyway, next up is the 4th worst artist trope. The painter that looks like the picture of refinement and serenity when they're painting. They're sitting up straight, perfect posture, dressed in some elegant and pristine outfit, holding the paintbrush daintily with their pinkies up like they're having high tea with the queen, making perfect little brush strokes without ever so much as leaning forwards to look closer or adjusting their posture in any undignified manner to be able to have more careful control over their brush. The aesthetic? S tier. Excellent. I love it as much as any other artist with a vague, passive wish to be living in the Renaissance creating Dorian Gray-esque masterpieces for rich patrons. Hopefully just as cursed, too. But that aesthetic does not exist in reality. When I'm painting, the canvas is on the floor on a garbage bag, and I am crouched in varyingly strenuous and twister-like positions over it as I give myself hernias to avoid messing up any brush strokes. I'm surrounded by paint bottles, water glasses, empty energy drink cans, crumpled paper towels, and unused brushes that I took out because I thought I might need them but decided to just use the same one for everything instead, despite the fact that others would be better because I was already holding that one and I couldn't be bothered to untwister myself to get another one. I'm disheveled, wearing a gigantic old shirt covered in new and old paint stains, boxer shorts, and Pokemon slippers, and I've somehow managed to get paint not just on my hands, but also my face, legs, arms, and inexplicably my big toe and nowhere else on my foot. In fairness, my painting process is a little more chaotic than most, and I will admit that I am probably not an accurate representation of most painters who actually have some amount of their shit together, but I haven't met a single one who's anywhere near as pristine and refined as that perfect painter-artist trope, and I refuse to let anyone think that that painter actually exists just because those characters do. Unless someone somewhere actually is like that, in which case, number one, I want proof. Number two, if you can provide it, I stand happily corrected, and I envy your inexplicable grace more than words can express. Okay, next worst artist trope is number 5, the starving artist. Now, okay, I get it. This one has more of my understanding than any of the others, because I'm an artist living on the income that my art generates, and I know very, very well how broke that tends to leave you. The money you make is sporadic, inconsistent, and sparse, at least for the first while. I understand why so many artist characters are depicted as living on instant noodles, always running late on rent, and constantly in a state of considering the sale of at least one of their kidneys. I was that artist. I'm still not far off from that, honestly. But what bugs me about this trope is that that's not limited to artists, and suggesting that it is by popularizing this trope makes people think there's no point in pursuing art at all, else you end up like Squidward eating his paintings because they won't sell for enough to pay for food. Everyone just starting out in any career is going to be making pennies compared to someone who's been doing it for a decade. You have to tolerate low wages until you're experienced and skilled enough for people to be willing to pay you more no matter what your job is. Yes, artists make their money less consistently. Someone in a salaried role is going to be making low wages at the beginning of their career too, but it'll still be salaried, predictable, and constant. The income that artists make is so unpredictable that it's borderline random, so that combined with low wages does mean it's harder than it is for others. But the longer you work at it, just like any other job, the more sustainable it becomes. People are eventually willing to pay more for your work, and there will be more people who want it. Your income increases as your skill does. At least if your skill at marketing and business management increases too, which it should if you're making this your job. The starving artist trope is funny, it's relatable, and I get it. I really do. But I hate how much its popularity has convinced people that careers in art aren't worth the risk of it being a reality. I could ramble about that for way too long though, so I'm gonna move on to number 6, the artist character that maxed out creativity and didn't save any points for intelligence. The ones who are exceptional at anything artsy. Fashion, drawing, crafting, design, even just out-of-the-box thinking, but utterly incapable of understanding anything more traditionally intellectual. They got A's in English and art class but failed math and science. I think it traces back to the whole almost thoroughly debunked right brain, left brain thing, the belief that you're either dominantly right-brained, creative and artistic, or left-brained, logical and rational, which is incredibly reductive and demonstrably not how people work. At least not in the black and white way that it was taught to us forever. There's a basis for it, it's just not that simple. I love science, I'm great at math, and I was planning to become a doctor rather than a professional artist if I had been able to afford med school. Art was my backup. Stuff can be two things. You can be creative and logical. Real human beings don't have stat points to allocate when it comes to what their brains are capable of. Let artist characters be good at things other than art. I don't think I'm asking for a lot here. I will, however, acknowledge my bias here and say it probably pisses me off because it doesn't apply to me in the slightest, and I'm personally peeved at the lack of accurate representation. And the same most definitely applies to number 7, the artist character who is the ultimate free spirit. They hate business and corporations and the man. They follow their heart and tell sensibility to shove it. They live in their own little world. Their heads are in the clouds. They're wearing flowy sundresses in rampant thunderstorms because they just don't care. Art is all that matters to them. They are Puko from Agretsuko, just doing whatever they want without any consideration for their futures or money or security or pretty much anything else. I won't lie to you. I think a big part of the reason I hate this trope is that I want to be this trope. I would sell more kidneys than the starving artist trope character to be able to live that life sustainably. I don't want to care about financial stability or responsibility or obligations. I do want to make art 100% of the time and waste none of that time on anything else. But you can't make art your whole life and still be able to pay rent if you're that carefree and irresponsible. You have to care about paying the bills, and you have to care about it more than most people because it's harder to pay them as an artist based on that aforementioned income inconsistency. And even if you set aside the lack of realism, I think it just bugs me because it paints artists as being careless. Like we've chosen to embrace hedonism and irresponsibility by pursuing art because obviously we pay no attention to the need for financial planning, business management, societal norms as a whole, and the overwhelmingly important things about being a human that everyone else has to worry about. Puko's a good example for this, despite not even being an artist to my knowledge, actually, because she basically says at one point, yeah, responsible people like you who hold the world together are the reason that people like me get to be irresponsible and careless and not bother with the world. I don't love the idea that artists are perceived as having that mentality. I pay taxes. I worry about my retirement fund, or lack thereof. I'm responsible to a fault, to the point that the word carefree hasn't been a part of my vocabulary since I was 4. I'm not saying that's a good thing, but I am saying that's something a lot of artists share a lot more than this trope suggests. I feel like we actually worry more than most people about the shit that the carefree head-in-the-clouds artists dismiss, but maybe that's just me. Anyway, next is the 8th worst artist trope, the artist look. You know the one, when artist characters have to dress just quirkily enough for us to know that they're artists, because we actually lose our ability to draw if our outfits are too boring and mainstream. Handmade or altered clothes, overalls covered in paint, strange and unique jewelry, bright colors, and an overall rejection of anything society would consider to be classy or stylish or normal. Now, this one is a little different than the others because I honestly think it's a pretty accurate representation of a lot of artists in real life, because an artsy outfit, by very nature of needing to be outside the box and reflective of the character's tastes and personality, means that most of these characters look very different and expressive and individually unique. On almost every level, I actually love this trope. I might even put it on the best tropes list too, so I can ramble more about why. But all of the love I have for it pales in comparison to the hate I have for what it's created in real life. The belief that all artists have to dress that way. Because people really do seem to think that it's our legal obligation. I met someone at a Christmas party once and he asked what I did for work. I told him I was an artist. He looked me up and down, nodded, and said, "Yeah, you look like an artist." I laughed and asked him what the fuck that meant, and he shrugged and said, "The hair, the tattoos, the outfit, all of it." And we've established that on all levels but the weed smoking, I am physically a call me charisma art hoe. And on top of that, I was wearing a helix to lobe chain earring that looked like a vine and had butterflies on it, and an ugly Christmas sweater over a dress shirt, so I struggled to blame him for the assessment. And part of me was even pleased that I had nailed the artist vibe. But then like 3 days later, I met a friend for lunch wearing a plain dress shirt and pencil skirt because it was a nice restaurant and I didn't think my t-shirt with a goose holding a knife on it was appropriate. And she said with actual criticism in her voice, "You know, you don't really dress like an artist." Has the quirky artist look gone so far that it's now constantly mandatory? Are artists not allowed to dress quote-unquote normally without sacrificing their creative integrity? Do I have to be attending job interviews, galas, and funerals in my paint-covered overalls, or else my Bungo Stray Dogs fan art drawing license will be revoked? That is truly too terrifying of a thought to imagine though, so let's turn our attention instead to the 9th worst art trope. The sensitive artist that's almost comedically over-emotional. They won't swat flies, not even mosquitoes. They watch The Notebook and take 5 to 7 business days to emotionally recover. They're moved to tears by the sound of a bird chirping in the morning, and they need to paint that bird immediately to express the overwhelming significance. Their skin is thinner than my patience with overdone art tropes, and that's a goddamn accomplishment. Listen, I get it. Artists are often more emotionally attuned than others. There is a sensitivity that comes with the craft because you have to be sensitive to a degree to appreciate the beauty and pain in life enough to want to depict and reinterpret it. But my god, we don't all cry at the sunrise, and it's not a job requirement. The whole sensitive artist trope has been taken to such an extreme that it's taken a thing that we actually experience and made it almost comedically ridiculous. I'm sure there are some artists out there who really do cry about every single thing they find to be movingly beautiful, like Hassel from Pokemon, and no judgment to them in the slightest, but that is not the average artist. Maybe it's because I'm so far in the opposite direction that I find it funnier than I find it accurate. My jaded bitterness strikes again. Maybe a lot of this actually has to do with the fact that these tropes are so far from any real representation of my experience as an artist that I can't abide by them, even if they actually might be for others. Tragically, empathy is not my strong suit, so they infuriate me anyway. The last one doesn't exactly disprove my theory, but I do also hate it for reasons beyond its personal inaccuracy. The 10th and final worst artist trope. The pretentious fine artist who claims that the banana they take to the wall is an expression of their deep, boundless suffering and a commentary on the superficial, careless wastefulness of society. My mom used to tell me that when she was in poetry class with my dad, he would get top marks because every time the teacher asked the students what they thought a poem was about, he would say in a deadpan, dark voice, "It's about death, obviously." Now, I know my dad, and I know he was being the same variety of snarky, sarcastic asshole that he raised me to be, and was 100% fucking with that teacher, but that is exactly the kind of response the pretentious artist trope character would give 100% seriously. They wear only the finest designer clothes, sip only wine that was bottled in the 1800s, and look down on any art that they feel lacks meaning, while attributing that meaning to their own when it's just a dot on a canvas. Think of any singular character in Velvet Buzzsaw and you'll know what I mean. Except that one artist who actually resents the whole mentality and ends the movie by encapsulating what a real artist looks like when they've done away with that pretentiousness and embraced art for art's sake instead. He was cool, although he was also an example of the all artists are addicts or alcoholics trope that was a close contender for 10th place, so there's that. In fairness, mocking these tropes was the point of Velvet Buzzsaw, so I guess the takeaway is that it did a very good job. Regardless, the pretentious artist trope doesn't just piss me off because I so vehemently fail to identify with any aspect of it. It also pisses me off because it's exactly what a lot of people think artists are actually like, and my god has it given us a bad rep for centuries. Unfortunately, the third bonus reason it pisses me off is that there are a lot of real artists who are like that, so I can't really blame the trope for reflecting reality to some extent. Maybe I just want to punch the artists that those characters are based on, and that's the bigger issue here. But there we have it, the top 10 worst artist tropes according to my objectively correct opinions and little more. As always, please feel free to drag my ass in the comments because you disagree, so long as you know that this whole video was a satire joke and not an actual critique of your favorite artist characters, and you probably shouldn't take it too seriously. If you enjoyed the video, please check out the playlist in the iCard above to find a million more of them roasting a million more tropes. And keep an eye out because the best artist tropes is up next and coming soon. For now though, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed today's video. Special thank you as always to channel members Joseph Solomon, TC Pratt, Haruki Saluzzo, Peachy, King Good James, Art of Amethyst Fable, Extinction Animation, Andy the Hedgehog, Kai the Memer, Jazz, Jeff Sayori, Stardust, and Angry Shroomish, as well as patrons Batman, Kyle Lowe, Blue Swanson, Jamisha Walker, Elengshi, Kim Yen, Crazy Asar, Gentong, Grayson Xavier, Blah Mage, TC Pratt, Finn, Celine Merriman, Eldritchia, The Stray Dog, Ulura, Greg Noble, Decagon, Jenny Chan, Cat Bus, Mac, Lucy Amajiki, Selena Bibi, Pride, Totally Shogun, Insomniac Sleep Schedule, Wing Tang Long, Marie Greer, Potato, Jazz, Floyd Walker, Latte Tabby, Christian Cook, Adam Surovietz, Doriaki, Varius, Hailstorm, and Emo Queen Jules, and I'll see you in the next one.